doors, please.
Welcome back to Subway Sports Talk. We are off the rails. Here to talk about Marvel's latest release coming out just any moment now. When you're listening to this, might be out already. About Thor, Love, and Thunder. Joining me to talk about it, Andrew Klanya, back from the baseball talk to talk Marvel.
Here, let's do it.
I gave you such a pointed intro there that you can't even go off a tangent and say you want to talk about the Rangers signing Malkin or something like that. Is that a thing?
No, well, they freed up enough cap space to re-sign Kako. So Kako's back, so they'll be able to keep the kid line intact with Cheeto, Kako, and Lafreniere. Very excited.
Kid line, baby. I'm here for the kid line. That's all I'm here for about the Rangers. But I'm here for Marvel releases, the reviews, Thor, Love, and Thunder, the whole nine. This is off the rails. If you haven't figured it out, that's when we talk about non-sports stuff. Subway Sports Talk off the rails. There it is. Anyway, so
do you get it?
If you don't get it, now you get it. This film is anticipated, I'd say, less than Doctor Strange, because we got Doctor Strange. It was like the first big one from Spider-Man. Spider-Man kind of lived in its own thing. It was huge. Everyone loved it, the whole nine. Strange was like, oh, this is the big one. All the new stuff's coming. We're going to know the multiverse now. We're going to know this. We're going to know that. And we didn't get a lot of the big picture MCU stuff that we were all hoping for. However, I think the film holds up better with time as a solo film than people want to give it credit for. And I think some people have come around on that. All right, it was a cool movie. Sam Raimi the hell out of it. It was fun. It didn't give us all we wanted. So people probably ended up now a couple months removed, somewhere in the middle. Thor, with Taika Waititi at the helm, a lot of the cast, and Natalie Portman returning for this film. People are excited, rightfully so. The Guardians of the Galaxy are in the first act, at least at minimum, and there's a lot to be excited for. With Taika Waititi at the helm, you expect funny, you expect different, eccentric, something with heart, and I don't know. So I'm reading the reviews here, Andrew, and I'm seeing that it is funny, there is heart, it looks pretty cool, but it's also getting reviewed poorly at the same time. So I'm going to go through a couple reviews here quickly. I'm not going to read the whole thing from each person, but a couple reviews here, and then you can kind of react to your reactions of the reviews and et cetera. So on Rotten Tomatoes right now, it's at a 70%, just critic review, obviously, because no regular person has seen it yet. But Sarah Michelle Fetters from MovieFreak.com said Thor: Love and Thunder is my least favorite film in the MCU. Hard to believe. Hard stop. I'll keep reading. Love and Thunder is such a hasty feeling mess of a movie. It might get the viewers to come around to Gore's bloodthirsty perspective. David Sims, The Atlantic. That's a bad review. In his eyes, he gave a bad score. That doesn't sound that bad to me. If you're going to fall in love with the villain, I think some of the best MCU movies ever have made you love the villain. Loki, Thanos, etc. So, okay. Black Panther. Here's a good one. This is a good review from Caroline Seed, Fox 10 Phoenix. Love and Thunder isn't the same kind of comedic crowd pleaser as Ragnarok, but for those who want just a touch more heft back in the Thor franchise, it's a worthy installment. Another person, Danny Lee, flawless self-awareness, teasing the deja vu of comic book movies without ever insulting the audience. This is Waititi's secret sauce. So you're catching a lot of different ideas here. That was Danny Lee, Financial Times. A lot of different views, a lot of different things being rated poorly or good. They don't sound that different to me. So I'm going to preface to you, in this age of the MCU, is this something we have to expect for, I'd say, 80 to 90% of releases, where it's going to be a mishmash of feelings, some good, some bad, probably not as different as the rating number on the actual review? Because that's what it feels like, where someone says it's terrible, someone says it's great, it's probably good. Is that okay? Is that okay to say in 2022, Andrew? How do you feel about the review season heading into Thor: Love and Thunder?
Well, just to touch on the Rotten Tomatoes score, so you said it got a 70. Do you know what Thor: The Dark World got on Rotten Tomatoes?
32?
68.
Okay. Wow, so, really?
Yeah, so
that's terrible.
Slightly, yeah, and that's the worst MCU film. So it got slightly better Rotten Tomatoes score than the worst MCU film in most people's opinion. So take that.
That's 68 combined, or is that audience?
No, that's just the critic review score.
Okay.
So So take that however you want to take it. And as far as like the reviews go, I just feel like that we've kind of hit the fit. We've I know we've been talking about hitting Marvel fatigue for like years now, but now especially with when and it's kind of a product of COVID. To be honest with you, when we weren't seeing movies and um, they've kind of had to push everything, so everything was going to kind of going bam, 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 and releasing one after the other. So you had Doctor Strange, and then Miss Marvel, and now you have Thor: Love and Thunder, and then you're gonna have She-Hulk, and then you're gonna have Black Panther. It's one after another, and I feel like you've hit a little bit of fatigue, and B, just because we haven't really gotten uh, who the next big bad is. They've given hints, they've kind of tried to put pieces on the table, but we haven't got any kind of concrete answer on what kind of direction, the next major phase of the MCU is going to be. People are kind of just, I guess, kind of frustrated with these kind of standalone stories. So, um, and if I'm going to be completely honest, I kind of am too. Like I enjoy Doctor Strange. um, I walked away a little more disappointed because again, it kind of set up the multiverse and whether or not it was gonna, maybe actually bring the X-Men into the proper MCU. And you kind of have to check your expectations at the door with a lot of these films. But I feel like they were when you call something the multiverse of madness, it's hard to do that at the same time. And I always try to, myself, it's kind of how the Star Wars sequel trilogy got ruined for me. I brought too many of my expectations into the theater and not be open to whatever stories the storytellers actually want to tell. And that kind of ruined Star Wars, at least the sequel trilogy for me. And I don't want it to ruin Marvel for me as well. So I take I feel like the critics are just as kind of I wouldn't say fed up, but kind of disappointed in, this kind of just seems like another one-off story. Whether or not I feel like it's still going to be good because, name a bad Christian Bale movie outside of like that Terminator movie. Like Christian
Yeah.
Bale hasn't done a bad movie.
Not a bad
So I feel like
either. Yeah.
he's gonna be great in it. I feel like he's gonna be live up to the Marvel villain name that that people seem to love, the charismatic villains. I feel like he's gonna be great in it. And again, I am probably the one of the least the uh, I don't like Chris Hemsworth. I don't like his comedy. I really don't. Ghost
Tell me how you
Ghost
really feel.
no, Ghostbusters 2016 ruined it for me. Him just like his brand of comedy is like I'm very handsome, so I'm gonna act like I'm stupid. And that's a one note comedy for Chris Hemsworth. And I get it. You're very handsome. You're in shape. You're Australian. You get paid to work out, but you're gonna act dumb. And it doesn't hold up for me. But um, I don't even know where I'm going with this.
Okay,
I
so
just don't
let
I
me
just
dive
don't
in.
I just don't like Chris Hemsworth. Okay, I just don't. But I feel like Natalie Portman coming back is a big plus, and I feel like Christian Bale is going to be a big part of the movie, and I'm excited to see some of the Guardians of the Galaxy back too. So again, I feel like middle of the road Marvel movie, but I feel like that's what most of outside of Spider-Man of what it's been, post Endgame, and people just kind of want to see that next kind of build up to that Endgame type of movie. After we get that, I know understand that you have to build up to it, but I feel like you're not building up to everything. The frustrations are coming out for the fans, and it's coming out. I feel like in the critics as well.
Yeah, it's a very fair point, and that's what I wanted to kind of tackle before we go into predictions.
Mhm.
The post Endgame MCU is a very difficult thing to navigate because it is a mixture of people loving everything to a fault and some people criticizing everything to a fault. Where some stuff deserves more love and some stuff deserves some criticism. So I totally get that overarching point. I just asked the question of like, where in the last phase did we know we were getting Infinity Wars and Endgame to that extent? Like when we were 4 movies before Endgame, were we fully aware of what was coming? Were we fully aware when it was just Ant-Man? right? When Ant-Man came out, the first one, great movie. Everyone's like, oh, this is hilarious. A new style of superhero movie. We love it. It didn't have anything to do with anything yet. It wasn't until the Ant-Man and the Wasp, which wasn't as good as the first one. It was still good. I liked it. Where it became more important with the quantum realm and all that crap, which then became a huge part of Endgame.
But I will say that at the end of the first Avengers movie, that's when you saw Thanos. That's when you
Right.
know who Thanos was. There's some big bad guy out there that wants to fight the Avengers for some reason, and you kind of got more stories as the Guardians of the Galaxy came out and stuff like that. But I feel like you
Learned what
knew
Infinity
that
Stone
Infinity
was.
Stones and stuff were a big deal very early on in the MCU, and it took them 27, I don't know, 25, 26, 27 movies to get to the end. But again, I just don't feel like the that we're just meandering along. And again, I enjoy the character studies, and I feel like this feels like more of a character study on Thor.
Mhm.
Because again,
And the other guy and the other characters too.
yeah, and again, he's an original Avenger. He's one of the only original Avengers, the only original Avenger left of the Hulk too.
And Hawkeye.
Um, but you
And
know,
Hawkeye.
he lost his in Hawkeye. Well, who gives a shit about Hawkeye?
Fine
And you know,
show.
he lost his brother that he knows of. He lost his planet. He lost his parents. So like, I feel like they're gonna lean into, you know, the maybe the comedic side of, you know, like of tragedy and of loss. So it's gonna be more of a character study on Thor than anything else. And obviously that Natalie Portman's gonna come back. That creates a different dynamic, and hopefully something better than the last time we saw them together in Thor Dark World. So there's that as well.
Yeah, and I think when I'm hearing you give your criticism and, kind of leading into this movie, I think some of those things can be answered here in this new
Mhm.
film, where it will be a deeper dive on Thor, the person, and his purpose. It's all in the trailer, right? Like, what's his
Yeah.
purpose? Is he still going to be a warrior? Is he still a king? He's not right now. Valkyrie is. Is he the leader of Asgard or New Asgard? All those things give them the opportunity to go deeper into the person. How deep they get is the question. And one of the reviewers who I like, I mean, he does amazing stuff on New Rockstars, Eric Voss. He gave his non-spoiler review on their YouTube page, and he reviewed it positively. But the negatives, he said, was there were all these deep moments where it was so quick from deep sadness, agony to like the next punchline to the next ridiculous thing. That's kind of Taika's MO in a way, right? And it's why we love so many of his films and his shows. But in this case, where we want to see the deeper side of Thor and Jane Foster and Valkyrie, etc., maybe you want some slower beats to really feel the agony and feel why they are the way they are. I haven't seen the movie, so we're just gonna guess at this point of how deep they get there. But that feels like an opportunity for me. I don't expect this to be a huge opener for the Marvel universe. I mean, maybe we get a great post credit scene, which people are doing a great job of keeping those spoilers away from the internet, which is very nice. And
Mhm.
that could be the next lead to something bigger, something more special. But again, I don't know. After the post credit scenes for Doctor Strange, we got the Clea thing breaking into the dark realm, perhaps with the knife at the end there. Like, that was something. We don't really
Yeah.
know what. It's going to be something, but we don't know when. So that's the tough part. And we got all this great content out, and there's probably a lot of people out there who weren't watching movie after movie after movie, right? Like, maybe they saw Captain America, Iron Man, the first Avengers, and Ant-Man, and they missed every other one. And then they caught up and they saw Civil War and they saw Winter Soldier and they saw all these other movies that were some of the most successful in the MCU, and they loved it compact, right? But over time, if you're in it from day one, it's a much slower grind. And we're in that right now. We're in the slow grind. It's almost like a complete restart in a lot of ways, despite there being some characters we're already familiar with. So I think that's where I give them a little bit of time and a little bit of patience. But I understand why people want more. I want more. I'm eating this shit up. All right, we're here talking
Yeah.
about it on Subway Sports Talk. So it's a really hard line to kind of to walk across for them, and it's so big that they have the captive audience. These movies are still making a crap ton of money, whether or not it's the best Doctor Strange movie we could have gotten or not. They're still successful. So, do you think and then we'll go into predictions. Do you think that the MCU and Marvel has gotten a little too big, too ambitious for its own good, or over the whole, next 3 years or whatever, do you still have the utmost faith in Kevin Feige and the Marvel people to deliver that arc and deliver the top tier movies that we have grown to love?
I don't think they've gotten more ambitious. I think I feel like they plan things out to a T, and I feel, and on the other side of the coin of there being so much content, I feel like people don't. I'm excited for the movie. I feel like people don't actually need to see this movie to kind of get the bigger picture, try to understand going forward. Again, these are all one. These all seem like one-off stories. So I feel like the Marvel kind of formula now is that you kind of get to pick and choose what you want to see, and then eventually you'll get caught up in, the big movie will catch everybody up and kind of bring everything together. I feel like the you can't expect the audience now that you have so many movies together that you kind of, the hardcore fans are always going to go and see everything every single night. Again, I'm not in and not so enthused about this movie yet. I'm seeing it Friday night opening night, so I'm a mark in that way. So but I think at the same time, at the non-hardcore fan, the casual fans, they see Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, and Christian Bale. Like, okay, we're gonna go see this because those are great actors, and it seems like a compelling story. But people, if you didn't watch Miss Marvel or didn't see Doctor Strange, I feel like people aren't gonna be able. They'll be able to just pick up,
100%.
and watch the movie. And I feel like that has something good going for it right now. And I feel
That
like that's something that they're gonna have to possibly keep doing moving forward.
That's a good point, and it kind of plays both sides of the line again,
Yeah.
right? Like, who's it really going to? Is it maybe not Marvel getting too big for its own good, but Marvel fandom is getting too big for its own good? When I'm watching Miss Marvel episode 5. What's today? Wednesday. I'm gonna watch it tonight. Maybe not tonight because it's already late. But like, I'm gonna watch it, and then I'm gonna go watch an Easter egg video where I learn 28 things that I didn't know happened because I don't have enough eyes to watch every single
Yeah.
frame, right? So I'm not the fan that they care about right now with Thor, with Doctor Strange, because there's other people out there who I envy in some ways because they don't go in with this crazy expectation. They don't go in having 9 theories in their head about what could, should, or we want to happen.
Yep.
That's a beautiful thing. I actually went to see Doctor Strange with a kid who I envy his Marvel fandom because he doesn't even watch trailers.
Mhm.
Like, and I think that's a crazy thing, but if you think about it, like, he went into Doctor Strange, and when he saw Professor Xavier, he was floored. He was hyped. He was like, "Yo, Professor X." And I'm sitting in front of him, I'm like,
You
"Bruh,
knew this.
you ain't known that? Like, I've
Mhm.
gotten 19 theories on this already."
Mhm.
And he enjoyed the movie more than, me and my other friend who had like this bigger understanding of what was going on, right? Like, he didn't watch What If. He didn't have this guesstimation of what Doctor Strange would look like. That's a blessing for those people. So how does Marvel give people like you and I everything we want while also hitting all those marks, those other marks, who just show up for a movie they think looks pretty fun?
Yeah, and I feel like they do that by, the leaks to get people excited about those movies, like that leak for on Howard Stern the other day. I'm 100% convinced that this wasn't an accidental hot mic situation, that they said, okay, this is how we're going to leak. We're talking about Doctor Doom, get people excited about that, and gauge the interest, and um, the interactions online, and they have their own crazy algorithms and things like that. I feel like the cameos, and I feel like the theories and stuff. That's what gets. I feel like that's what gets us into the theater more than any kind of trailer. It's the theories and the build up, and unfortunately, a lot of the times they don't. You can't live up to the build up. You build it up to be this crazy thing. You kind of, again, you want to get excited, but you also have to check your expectations and your excitement at the door as well. It's a very weird and difficult kind of balance.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, they do in trailers lie sometimes, you know,
Oh,
like
absolutely.
they will take things out of a trailer and then reinsert them for the real movie to give them a little more shock value, to leave some stuff, you know, behind the curtain, which is a good thing. I'm fine with that. I know some people get frustrated. Oh, they're just toying with us. Like I find it almost impressive when a company like that can you know control an entire audience with a string, right? Like it's kind of like being at a concert and you're watching the opener and like 15% of the audience is locked in because they know this band, they love this band. And it's like, all right, you know, everyone else is like, all right, this is cool, whatever. You know, we're just getting ready for the big show. And then they play the one song everyone knows, everyone gets excited and blah, blah, blah. It's a good time. Oh, the opener was pretty good. And
Yeah.
then you watch the main event, the actual headliner of the show, and they just have every single person in the audience, you know, locked in.
Yep.
Every single note, every single solo from an instrument is just locked in. Everyone's paying attention. It's kind of like that little dichotomy there where Marvel can pull those strings to get certain people interested in certain ways and others interested in other ways, right? So with the trailer, and we'll start segueing into predictions here, there are some things that can become bigger MCU picture stuff. So all there's that picture, the shot in the trailer where Jane Foster is in the middle of this big, I don't even know what to call it. Looks like, I don't know the word, not a hall, but you know what I mean. It's a
A
big
horde.
hallway, a
Yeah.
court, and there's all these giant statues there. Those statues are the likes of like Infinity and I'm gonna mess some of these up here, but the Living Tribunal. It looks like there's a Watcher in there, Lady Death, like all these huge people from the comics that control things beyond a planet and beyond the galaxy. And that's where the multiverse stuff can come in. That's one of the big things that can lead to something big picture MCU in this film. So they show stuff like that in the trailer, and that
Mhm.
gets the nerds excited because we learn about it all, and then we get excited for the movie. Whereas, you know, my friend Joe, who hasn't watched the trailer, is gonna be like, "The hell are those three floating heads? What is
Mm.
that? What is infinity? Is that a person? Is it a theory?" Like they might be confused, but they'll probably get it. They'll probably still enjoy the movie. And it's like two different people watching the same thing from
Yeah.
completely different perspectives.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, it keeps you on your toes, and it gets you excited for, you know, and maybe that's the secret sauce. Is it gets different people excited for many different reasons.
Right.
So again, yeah, again, I'm not super hyped about the movie, but still
But you're
gonna go
seeing
see
it
it
on
again.
day two.
Yep, see it on day two.
You're seeing it on day two. All right, so let's do some predictions here about what we think may transpire. Let's start off with a possibly more obvious one. You know, everyone is assuming something here. So I'm assuming people who are watching this are probably more on our side of stuff. Maybe they're trying to learn right now. But in
Mhm.
the trailer, they're showing this huge meeting of the gods where Zeus is there and other gods are there. It looks like there's a Bast god, which is the god from Black Panther, the actual Black Panther. There's going to be a lot of other god entities from different, you know, religions and etc., deities and whatnot at this place. Everyone's assuming that Thor gets pulled into this place, and then there's this havoc, and Gore's going to come in and just murder all, not all, but a lot of these gods because he is
Yeah.
Gore the God Butcher. That's been like the worst kept secret, but it's also not guaranteed to be true yet.
Mhm.
Do you predict, Andrew, that that god scene, the meeting of all the gods, is going to end in a bloodbath where multiple big time, quote unquote, big time gods just get slayed up?
Absolutely. It's gonna be Godfather type ending where
Well, that's going
I
to
don't
be
know. I don't know if he's gonna go
earlier in
into
the
the bathroom
movie.
and get a gun, but he's definitely gonna go in there. He's gonna go fuck some shit up.
So you're fully on board for that. I feel like that'll be
Yeah.
exciting. It'll
Yeah.
work out like the Illuminati did in Doctor Strange,
Mhm.
where if we didn't have all these theories about what the Illuminati was going to mean for the next 5 years of the MCU, and we just got shocked by that, it was incredible. I mean, Wanda just brutally murdered all of these high level heroes, brutally, right? Like
Yeah,
if
it
you
was
didn't
it
know
was
about
just,
that, it would have been fun. It was
it was just a device for the MCU to use to show how powerful Wanda is without taking someone that's very important off of the board. and I feel like that's going to be kind of maybe maybe they'll do that trick a second time where they'll take all of these gods out just to prove how powerful Christian Bale's character actually is,
Right.
without someone being of consequence. Like Russell Crowe's definitely going to die.
Oh, 100%. And like I know Alec is on the corner of Alec Argento, our other co-host here usually. He's on the corner of Hercules being one of the gods there who doesn't die because he has such a big role in the comics. So they'll probably have some sort of plan for him down the line. So like he's a type of guy who would survive, but you kill all these other gods. He seems like this super powerful dude, which he is. And then you have your stakes. You have your stakes. So that should be early. It's hard to predict anything else other than that. Like I don't know what else could even happen there. Like those guys have to die at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's move on. Let me ask you a question about this. Jane Foster is now a Thor. A Thor?
She is Thor.
She is Thor. Even though Thor is Thor, we'll see how that plays out. How she got her powers is a question mark for now. We're going to probably learn, obviously. Do you think, before I even, give you options, do you have a specific take there, or do you want me to give you some options?
I don't really have a specific thing, but I assume it's she whatever she was doing since Dark World, that it has something. They'll probably do some kind of flashback because she was really into the cosmos and into study and astrology and all that stuff. So I assume her studies took her on some crazy path, and that's how she ended up getting her powers. That's my assumption.
Okay. Yeah. So my prediction is similar. It's when she got, cursed with the ether, which ended up being, was it the soul stone, I believe?
Yes,
Messing it
Soul
up.
Stone. Red Soul
That
Stone.
radiation, made her incredibly sick. And then there's a theory out there that infinity or eternity, I don't know, one of those big time deities there takes basically like sorrow for her for dealing with that and gives her life through these powers. That's a take that's out there that I think makes a lot of sense. And why is she in the middle of that room with all those statues around her, with the power, with the Mjolnir? I'm sounding like that freaking video.
How do you pronounce Thor's hammer?
Jonathan? That's a great one. So I think that's probably it's going to be something with that ether getting into her, that it's going to lead her somewhere to get those powers. I don't think that's a huge swing in either direction, but it'll be interesting to see where that comes from and where it's going to go. Cause like, is Natalie Portman about to be in the next couple years of the MCU plans, or is she going to be one and done here where her and Thor have some sort of ending where they find out what Love and Thunder is and then she's gone forever?
No, I feel like I feel like the torch is being passed to the next set of Avengers, and Natalie Portman's going to be one of them, one of the main Avengers. They're going to change it up that way. I feel like Chris Hemsworth is going to be in the MCU until he doesn't want to be in the MCU anymore, and I feel like he has a ton of fun making movies and stuff. So he won't be the Thor, but I feel like Natalie Portman, being in this movie and coming back, she's not just going to come back to do one and done. She's coming back for the checks. She's coming back and she's going to be a major part of the MCU moving forward.
Okay. Next question. Do you predict that we see Loki in this film via anything, timeline difference or flashback, etc.? Do we think that there is a Tom Hiddleston Loki sighting in this film in any way, shape, or form?
Oh, that's a good
Like,
question.
other than like a picture, like an actual thing that was filmed for this movie.
No.
Okay.
No.
So maybe like a flashback scene, perhaps.
Yeah, if it's a flashback, nothing current. It would be like something that maybe when Thor's reminiscing and he's sad about what's going on, he'll reminisce about something that's current with the story that happened in his past with Loki. So if anything, if not, but I don't think Loki's going to be any kind of integral part of the story going forward or in the present timeline.
Other than for maybe some of Thor's pain and etc. But
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now on a similar beat there, do we think, how do I phrase this one? Do we think that Thor learns anything of the timeline stuff, the TVA stuff? Does he learn anything about that? Is there any sighting of a TVA situation in this film?
I don't think so. Again, I think it's I don't know. It feels like more of a character study on Thor and putting Natalie Portman's place on the board rather than delving into anything else that's kind of happened in the MCU. I feel like it's going to be a very self-contained story outside of putting pieces on the board. Um, I'd be very surprised if the TVA shows up.
Okay. Which Guardian of the Galaxy steals the show? And this is more of opinion based. Like, which Guardian do you walk away from the film saying, "Ah, man, Groot was awesome today. Rocket was great in that one," or which one of the Guardians do you think really sends it in this film?
I feel like Chris Hemsworth and Chris Pratt playing off of each other. I feel like that was enjoyable um, in Endgame
Mhm.
and what was the
Infinity War.
Infinity. I feel like them playing off each other was pretty well, and you kind of got a little bit of hint of that in the trailer. So them playing off each other a little bit more, I feel like that's going to be that's going to be the thing that people are talking about more than. I feel like Drax and Dave Bautista. I feel like he's a very one note kind of guy. Maybe he has another funny "you can't see me, I'm invisible" kind of line, but outside of that, you know,
He,
I don't
he,
think.
he may only have one move, but man, is a good move.
Yeah,
It's funny every time. It makes me laugh. I'm laughing just thinking about it.
yeah.
My prediction is some sort of Groot big moment. There's a Groot animated series, perhaps, or a Groot coming of age series that's in the works that was announced or something like that. So I feel like Groot could have something here. They love making
Is
us
Groot
know
an adult or is Groot like a late in his 20s in this
he's a Y-
movie? Like what?
YA. He's a young adult, I think. Here, he's growing.
Mhm.
He's a growing boy, and the biggest paycheck for the least bit of work for Vin Diesel just continues to cash in. I mean, golly,
Yeah.
what a freaking role that guy landed. God damn, that's so good. Bradley Cooper as Rocket is always
Mhm.
fun. I think the Guardians are just so fun.
They
Um,
are.
they have their Christmas special
Yeah,
coming.
that's coming up too. That's coming up this holiday. That's coming up in November. Again, there's so much Marvel content coming out where it's just like it's almost overwhelming.
Yes, it's true. It's a little overwhelming. So something probably gets set up there for them. But I assume that they're going to be only in the first act or so.
Yeah, that
They'll
would be
be
my guess.
they'll be left behind. All right. So now bigger picture stuff here. I have a feeling based off the trailers that Gore and Thor are going to connect on a level they didn't expect, right? Because there's that line, "You're not like the rest of them," or something like that. That Gore says towards Thor, seemingly in the trailer,
Mhm.
and that's going to create some sort of, I don't know if it's going to be a pause in Gore's master plan to kill all these gods because he sees some sort of humanity. But basically, my question is, what's your prediction on Gore's ending here? Because it's going to kind of suck that Christian Bale, if he does a great job, which we expect him to with Gore, that if it's one and done, which seems like most likely here. But so, what's your prediction on Gore's ending? How it goes down? Does he just get killed off? Does he somehow escape and just go high? I don't know. What do you think is going to happen there?
I think it's more likely that he gets killed off rather than staying. Again, I don't think Christian Bale comes in and I don't know. I feel like he doesn't do franchises. I feel like he's not like he's too big of an actor to be like I'm going to sign up and do 7 movies or whatever it is. So I think it's very more likely that he gets killed in some kind of dramatic way with like a team up of Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth, somehow some way that way, rather than him leaving or deciding he doesn't want to do what he's doing anymore. So
Hmm.
unfortunately, I would love to have Christian Bale again. He's phenomenal actor, great in everything he does, but I think he's a one and done.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Unfortunate, but probably the truth, and probably the most realistic option there. The one thing I would see possible is if it's kind of open ended, like Wanda, where like, did he die? Like,
Yeah.
could he come back if they really wanted him to? Like, maybe if he signs on, Marvel's trying to be a little more actor friendly with these contracts. You're not signing on for 10 films, you're signing on for
Mhm.
one at a time. So I'm not going to completely write it off, but I agree. Most likely he'll be done by the end of the movie. Another thing about these movies, it's tough, is 98% of the time, the good guys come back and
Yep.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Infinity Wars obviously was one of the best MCU films, and probably because they ended in defeat.
Mhm.
It was such a jarring experience not knowing going into that movie. So I think that's possible. You can argue that No Way Home didn't exactly end in positivity. It ended in freaking heartbreak, to be quite honest. So
Yeah.
it's always a tough risk to take to end in negativity, but it's something that does land. It doesn't feel like Taika's possibility. It feels like, honestly, Taika's thing is like something horrible will happen, but it'll still end up being like a positive somehow. It seems like something's going to go down like that. All right. Last question for predictions here. If there's a character either towards the end or in a post-credit scene that we are unfamiliar with to this point, who do you think it may be? Or even if it's someone we're very smallly familiar with at this point, like somebody who's made an appearance or two, or very minimal. Is there anything big at the end or post-credit wise
Mm,
that you think can show up here?
that's a good question. I feel I have kind of two answers here. One, I feel like they could check in with Gamora or the clone of from the other timeline Gamora and see what she's doing because I feel like she's not hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think she's there. I feel like she's off kind of doing her own thing. So maybe it's a check in with her and she encounters somebody else and does that, or maybe we check back in with the Eternals would
Mm.
be my other
And like
guess.
a celestial, perhaps.
A
Yeah, yeah.
celestial kind of a deal, and maybe check in with them and see what's going on. To maybe some kind of crossover, or maybe set something up for whatever the next celestial event or adventure is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's a good possibility. The celestial situation, especially since this will deal with like that MCU authority ladder,
Hmm.
right? Where it's like the gods like Thor and the ones who work the different realms of the cosmos and whatever the galaxy. Then there's the Celestials, which are even bigger than that. They create the galaxies. Then there's Infinity and the Living Tribunal, who are even above that. They're the big judgment people, the big
Hmm.
decision makers. So that would make sense if something leads back to that middle ground where it's a Celestial or another Watcher. Like if it's the
Yeah.
Watcher, I think is a possibility where he's now seeing all this, saying like, "Okay, we got a situation on our hands." My prediction is going to be on the widely rumored Namor in Black Panther 2 as the main villain there, or main. I don't know if he's exactly a villain or not. It's kind of unclear what he'll be in the MCU. Namor isn't a villain all the time, right?
Sometime the anti-hero.
Yeah, somewhere weird like that. So I think that setup makes the most sense where, this deity is represented at this god meeting where Zeus is there and Thor's chained up before they see a massacre. I think maybe Namor's deity, uh, it's like a Mayan god or something like that, shows up and doesn't get killed, and at the end is shown still alive, like counting his chickens, trying to get back to his space. So I think that's my prediction on if we see something brand new or something that we kind of saw during the movie, and we revisit. My guess is Black Panther 2, and it's Namor, but I might be a little.
That's a good one.
It's been rumored pretty hard. And as good as the MCU is at keeping in secrets, they're also just as good as we discussed before at purposely leaking stuff. You
Hmm.
know, is it a leak that Namor is in this, or is it like a purposeful leak?
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. And that really would mean the difference of them actually putting this in a Thor film at the end or not. Because that would lead to some of those things that we're talking about that we miss from the last phases, where one thing led to another thing and made sense. It got bigger, and that would actually move the story along. Like not seeing anything Thor related with Doctor Strange that only came out a couple months prior was a little bit shocking to me, right? Like you thought maybe they could have done something there, and they didn't. So I'm not going to be surprised either way, but that would be my best guess.
That's a great guess, my friend.
Yeah. That's all we got. Thor, Love, and Thunder predictions. Andrew, are you going to be texting on Friday night? All right, here's your last prediction. Is your text going to be, oh my God, that was actually amazing? All right, that was actually very good. Meh. Or, oh man, they're losing it.
I'm probably in the middle ground. I'm always, again, I'm usually, pretty even edged when it comes to stuff like that. I feel like, if they can surprise me in some kind of way, I'll be very happy about it. If they can give me something satisfactory, that's kind of really all I'm looking for here, is to kind of just add that feeling of satisfaction as I leave the theater. But we actually didn't touch upon the most important MCU kind of news from the last couple of weeks. I kind of just want to end the podcast on.
Please.
We're gonna go in a weird direction here, my friend. Did you know that they opened up a Disney World restaurant in California, or in a Marvel MCU restaurant in Disney World in California? And it's like, it has to do with like the quantum realm, and they shrink stuff. So Ant-Man and the Wasp are on this like video before you go in dining, and Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, confirms the Thanos butthole theory. It is now MCU canon, my friend. And he said, "Hold on, I want you to know that there's a rumor going around that, why didn't I go shrink down, go inside Thanos and explode?" And he goes, "First off, gross. Second off, it would never work for a myriad of reasons." And he's about to go into it. And then the Wasp, played by the actual actors, like, no, we don't have time to go into this, but the Thanos butthole theory is MCU canon. And that's, I feel like we've buried the lead here, and we could go on for another hour just talking about that.
Oh man, that's great. I love. How have I not seen that? That's my question.
I'll send you the video when we're done here.
Please do. On that front, in Miss Marvel, which you're not watching, there's a reference to a podcast inside the MCU, and I forget now the exact name, but it's like Big Me, Little Me, and it's Scott Lang's podcast where he interviews other heroes from the Avengers and etc., and they talk about all the happenings of the Battle of Earth and all that crap. So, A, would you listen to Scott Lang's podcast? B, who else in the MCU would you expect to have a podcast?
Oh, I feel like if we're talking about people in this movie, I feel like Rocket would 100% have a podcast.
Like Info Wars type of podcast where he's just That's not bad. The only thing why Rocket wouldn't have one is because he has to keep a low profile for all his stealing, all his shenanigans. Well, the Guardians could have one, just like a group, like an ensemble.
Yeah,
that could work. That could work. I'm trying to think if anybody else would even be like remotely interesting enough to do it. I don't know. I don't know who else would be interesting enough. Scott Lang and oh my God, who's his partner? Played by Michael, what's his name? Oh
I know what you're talking about. Minor characters, or the TI. If he's not in jail, he would.
TI. That's definitely the lead for the best podcast out there of any of these, and then the Guardians probably a close second. I did mean to ask you about Gamora before, so that was a good pull by you. I think there's a good chance we see a Gamora situation here. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. All right, Andrew, this was great fun. Hopefully we'll get some predictions right. And hopefully we'll have fun watching the movie. Most importantly, hopefully we all have a great time in the movie theaters watching this big time film. So, Andrew, thank you so much. Thanks for the baseball talk. And we'll be back soon talking baseball throughout the summer. And maybe we'll even get some recap thoughts after we all see Thor. So,
sounds good, friend.
Thank you. Thank you for listening, everybody. If you haven't seen the other videos, if you're watching this on YouTube, we got a baseball video talking Mets and Yankees. We also got NBA free agency takes with yours truly. If you listen on the podcast, you done already heard all that. So thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more stuff as we go out through the summer into football season. We're going to blink, Andrew, and we'll be doing fantasy drafts. I would say I would say I can't wait, but I can wait because summer needs to slow down. So that's all we got. Thanks for listening. Subway Sports Talk, y'all. Cheers.
See ya.